welcome to everyone. I'm Camille Mortimer. I'm from Project Foundry, and my role here is as an organizer, and I'm one of 5 organizers for 1 Million Cups. Brian from Little Studio is here videotaping, and posts this videotape every week. And where can people find it, Brian?
You can follow 1 Million Cups on Twitter. You can follow Little Studio MKE on Twitter. We always post them there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Lots of ways.
Those are the best ways to get it.
Yeah, lots of ways to find it. So if you miss a week or it was so good you need to see it twice, you'll be able to do that. Let's check in with anybody who's new.
Hello.
Did I get it right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you. From Layer 1, and James is going to talk with us this morning about market automation. So rather than a presentation about his company itself, though you're free to tell us a little bit about your company,
Sure.
we're going to talk about market automation, the hows and whys, and where the work is and where the value is. Huh?
Yes.
Take it away.
All right, as mentioned, my name is James Pellizzi, and I work at a company called Layer 1 Media. We are just across the river here in the 3rd Ward. For the past 15 years, we have been building websites for our clients, and more recently, we have added service and capabilities around e-commerce and marketing automation, the latter which I'm going to talk to you about today. A little bit of information about myself. So I have 10 years of marketing experience related to brand management, social media management, event planning, a lot of lead management, CRM, specifically around Salesforce.com, and then obviously the marketing automation piece. I spent 5 years in the private sector here in Milwaukee. I spent 3 years in Chicago doing consulting, and now I'm back here in Milwaukee in the 3rd Ward, which is exciting because it's where I want to be. You can go to Chicago, you can go to New York, you can go to LA, and people will be talking about this stuff, but I wanted to be talking about it here, so it's nice to be among similar-minded professionals. My presentation, as mentioned, is more high level about what marketing automation is and what it isn't. So I will talk to you about the components that make it up. I have more of kind of a story and some examples to show you on how companies are using it. Keep it interactive. If you have a question, please just raise your hand. I'd be happy to take a pause and have that kind of interaction. At the end of this, I will talk about, I've got a document on how you can get started internally if you're interested, and then I can share price points, not with us, but just in general of what you can expect if you want to start this at your company. So I want to put this quote up first, and I want the entire context of what I present today to be in the realm of this kind of theme. According to Gartner research, 3 to 5% of leads are ready to close at any time. Companies who are using marketing automation are going to be able to identify which ones those are, where they are. Companies who are not often lose the sale. Again, just keep that in mind because I'm going to tie everything back into this at the end. I apologize, this next slide is a little messy, but I can clean it up with my talking points. So let's talk very high level. You've heard about marketing automation. It seems to be all the rage right now. In general, it's 3 things. One is a contact database. Companies already have this, whether it's in CRM, it's billing and ERP, a bunch of Microsoft Excel sheets, and so forth. What needs to happen for marketing automation, all those contacts need to be consolidated and managed by a marketing department. The way that marketing departments need to start thinking about this, it needs to be lightning quick. If somebody says, hey, show me all the companies that are in Milwaukee, they need to be able to pull that up very quickly. So show me Chicago, pull it up very quickly. Different product brands, categories, and so forth. You should be able to get this information in literally 1 to 2 minutes when people ask you for that. I'll go over an example. The second piece is that once you have that contact database, it's an engagement engine. So you've got all these contacts, now you're going to start to have conversations with those contacts, and these two are closely tied in together because you're going to be learning about them and they're going to be learning about you, so both people are getting smarter. And then the third piece, which is my favorite, is the human element. Automation can be a dangerous word. You still have to set it up, you have to understand it, you have to be able to monitor it and tweak it and so forth. And if marketers can't talk about it kind of the way that I am or the way that we are and so forth, already tying that quote back into this, marketing automation is going to be about generating leads. And if you can't do that, there's no point in going down this path. So the human element is what's going to drive that. And then the components piece, right? So you've heard a lot of people say, or likely you've heard a lot of people say, yes, I've got one of these platforms like Marketo or Pardot and so forth. We're sending out emails. I know what the open rates are. I know what the click rates are. We have marketing automation. That is only one component, and it's a big component. If you're doing that, that's good. But it also consists of what's known as dynamic landing pages, a scoring model, and then the ability to report and get that hooked up to a CRM. A little bit more granular is, I kind of mentioned before, I think that marketing automation is just a buzzword. What it really is just using digital technology to deliver relevant content to relevant individuals. It's that idea of one-to-one marketing. And I mentioned I was going to tell a story. So if you can imagine yourself, you're on a car lot, and you've got your family with you, and you've got a bunch of little kids and so forth, and you're looking at a minivan. You would expect the salesperson to approach you, human interaction. He sees you're looking at a minivan, he sees you're with your family, he's going to talk to you about that minivan and all those feature benefits. Oh, I see you've got a stroller, look at this stow and go. This one's antsy, we've got airbags. This one's pensive, look at the skyline in it and so forth. It would be crazy if that salesperson saw all of those things and came up to you and said, yeah, this Dodge Viper, 500 horsepower, look at the convertible top, cruise down the California highway and so forth. It wouldn't make sense to do that. But that's exactly what's happening on the digital landscape. Just because somebody looks at a web page for a minivan or clicks on an advertisement, likely what's happening is there's no information being tailored to that person. And if emails are going to be sent to them, maybe you get lucky and you target them with the minivan email first. Maybe you don't though, and you send the Viper, you send the truck, you send the compact car. By the time you would send the minivan, this person has already opted out and said, nope, you don't understand me, I'm going somewhere else. And this is where the idea of spam comes into play, and I'll talk about that as well. If you're going to do marketing automation, you have to make sure you can minimize your opt-out rates and your spam complaints and so forth. So I'll go into some examples. So the first thing that we have to do before we can even talk about the components is what's known as segmentation. And this goes into building out that contact database. So there's two types. There's regular segmentation and then there's true segmentation. I used a car example, I'm going to switch to a banking example. So regular segmentation is something that companies can do right away internally by themselves. And it's basically dividing their contacts into different groups or sectors. And you can do it based off attributes, right? So let's say that I'm a bank and I want to know all my different divisions. I've got a wealth division, commercial banking division, personal banking, home mortgage. That's one way to go about segmenting. You can do it by city, you can do it by category, by industry, by SIC code, lots of different ways you can carve that up. But then there's something called true segmentation, which we talk about this digital landscape. There's a way that you can confirm who is interested in receiving information from you before you even start your campaign. And I use a dating metaphor for this one, in that if you can't get your initial hello or pickup line to work with whoever you're trying to court, it wouldn't make sense to propose marriage or to move in and so forth. You would come on way too strong. Same thing would apply in the business world or anything else. See who's kind of initially interested and then nurture them or come on slow before you make your final pitch or your final offer and so forth. So let's use an example. Let's say that we picked out personal banking. That's going to be the campaign that we want to run. So what we would do is run a true segment for that. I'll go over an example. And then we would put them into what's known as a nurture program. This is all centered around the email component. And basically, we're going to present options to them. We don't know what they're interested in yet, so we're going to let them tell us. We're going to monitor their activity so we know what we're going to present them. Now, I talked about the options. We don't have to worry about whether we're coming on too strong with the minivan offer or the wrong offer and so forth, because we're going to go down a path where we're going to guide them to tell us. And people who can do this, the opt-out rates are going to be minimized, your open click rates will increase, and your form conversions will increase as far as being submitted and so forth. Let me just go over this actual example with you. So if you ever work with marketing automation or an agency and so forth, this is what a technical document is likely to look like. So let's say we've got a regular segment around personal banking. What we're going to do is we're going to craft a generic welcome email. kind of saying, let's say for this example, they're existing business and we're trying to upsell. And we're going to say something along the lines of, here's what's new at our bank. We appreciate you doing business with us. Here's a small little offer and so forth. We're going to see, and we can go beyond just an open, but we're going to see who is interacting with that, and we're going to take that as a confirmation that they are interested in receiving more information from us. We've identified a true segment. Then what we're going to do is present the actual offer. And I've got a real example here. Let's say one of these emails for the bank. There we go. So this is an example of something that you could send. Contact us, we're here for you. You know, thanks for doing business. You already knew that. We're so appreciative of you doing business with us. Here's a reward for it. Get cash back. We're going to see who clicks that link and who actually accepts the offer. We're going to put them into our true segment. From there, now we're going to present those options that I talked about. Is finance on your mind? Well, we know it is because you looked at our first email and you accepted our cashback reward. You have interacted with us. Now we're going to say, here are 3 things to consider. Again, we're not coming on too strong. We're just giving information. We're going to let them tell us. Is it a savings account that you're interested in? Is it checking account? Is it retirement planning? We're going to monitor who is clicking these pieces. Let's say I click on savings account. I get that information and so forth. A couple weeks later, I'm going to come in and I'm going to give you a final offer. We put our money where our mouth is. Let us help you get started with your savings account. And then click to open the account and so forth. So when I talk about if you're not going to generate qualified leads, there's no point in doing this. Picture yourself as a salesperson. I give you a list and I say, here's people we know that's doing business with us, start calling on them and see if you can drum something up. Or I say, this person accepted a cashback reward, he's looking at savings account information, and he has been extended an offer, you should go talk to them. Which one are you going to choose? It's going to be a pretty easy choice in my mind. Go back to the presentation. Now, so there's something else to this, right? If you can do that and you get a lead that is that qualified, that is gold. I mean, that's kind of the end goal and what you should be focusing most of your time on. But you've done it, I've done it, you know that people are still somewhat leery to submit forms or give away their contact information. There are other things that we can do to track online habits to see who's more qualified than somebody else. And it comes down to what's known as the scoring model, right? So I talked about email, now I'm going to talk about the scoring model piece. And basically the way that it works is there's 2 parts. There's a profile piece and an engagement piece. Profile is going to identify who we as a business want to do business with. And it's based off the alphabet. So for this purpose, we are all sellers here in this room. Who do we want to talk to? We want to talk to buyers. Maybe we want to talk to the managers who manage the buyers. We probably don't want to talk to vice presidents or presidents. They have higher level, decisions to make and so forth. We couple that with engagement, which this is all on the digital landscape then. This is going to identify who wants to do business with us. And it's based off numbers. So did somebody submit a form? Top priority, that's number 1. Did they click a bunch of emails? That's 2. Did they open the email? 3. Have they done nothing? That's a 4. So then we get prioritized leads. If I can give a seller an A1, a buyer who submitted a form, that's a prioritized lead. B2 though is still qualified. C3 if they're hitting it out of the park and they're just good closers, maybe they want to take a look at it. A president who hasn't done anything, they're probably not going to waste their time on and call and so forth. So this is what it starts to look like then. You've got a sales funnel with and without marketing automation. Again, I mentioned over here, you're taking a shot in the dark versus over here, you've got prioritized sales or pipelines. So when you go into your strategy meetings or when you talk with salespeople and so forth, you can start to hold accountable, marketing generated all these leads for you, are these closing, what are you doing with them and so forth. And then this is how you identify that 3 to 5%. A few more pieces to this. I talked about emails and then the scoring model piece. There's also what's known as dynamic content. So the email is the engine that still drives to the website, right? The website is still going to be the center of the digital landscape. So there's ways that you can start to further tailor the message when they come back to it time and time again. So I have an email or an advertisement. I go to your website for the first time. You're going to have original copy. What if I come back a second time? We are going to recognize that maybe there's a welcome back banner. What happens the third time? What happens the fourth time? By the fifth time, maybe we have a special offer. We know that you have, looked at the offer, you've been here 5 times, there must be some interest. How can we entice you a little bit further to pull the trigger on it? 6th time, 7th time, 8th time, 9th time, just an example. But maybe by the 10th time, the only option at that point is to contact a rep. My point being is you can also use your web page to drive lead conversions and so forth. And I've got an example. Some of you saw me pulling this up before. So like I mentioned, like the big companies are already doing this, but it's going to take all the companies by storm in the next couple of years. So I do banking at Chase. So Chase knows that I have been doing this. So I have a welcome back banner up there. And then every time I log in, I get a different photo of Milwaukee. So sometimes it's the skyline, sometimes it's somewhere in the 3rd ward, or this and so forth. But it goes even further than that, in that it literally knows like what I've been interested in, which is where I got some of my banking examples from. So food for thought, like I said, big companies are doing this right now. It doesn't matter if you're a startup or you're mid-size or you're going the growth route. This will become the new norm in the next 3 to 5 years. All right, so those are the components. I'll show you just a few more things unless there's questions. I mentioned that I would talk about ways that you can start to do this internally. And I can send all of this or give it to the group afterwards if there's a site. Zoom in a little bit. Well, I can talk about it. So I don't know how well you can see this, but I'll talk through it. So if you're looking to get started with MA, it takes time, obviously. You're looking at anywhere from, depending on how fast you want to go, from 3 months to 6 months to a full year. Now, if you're at that stage, there's things you can do to streamline that. So the first thing is you're going to need somebody who is going to be able to be your administrator. This doesn't have to be somebody that is going to set everything up, do all the emails, do all the copywriting and so forth, but you need somebody to be at the center of it who's going to coordinate all of these other tasks. And the most important thing this person can be, if there's an intuitive individual that you know about, or somebody that's not afraid to just kind of turn things on and be like, whoa, what's happening? That's going to go a long way in figuring this out and kind of keeping things moving forward. Point being, you don't need somebody who's a rocket scientist to do it. And then one of the things that we pitch a lot is for companies to write down your objectives. So, I mean, you just heard me present this information and so forth. Pick the top 1, 2, or 3 objectives that you would want marketing automation can do. Maybe it's as simple as just, I want to qualify leads, or I want to start sending out emails and so forth. And then what we do is anytime we do a planning session or we're with that administrator and so forth, we put those up on the wall. And as we're going about creating it and so forth, if we start to get sidetracked or we need to park them out something, we go back to, well, is it going to accomplish these goals? So basically the components are going to be built with all of that in mind. And then this is my favorite one, is get big mistakes out of the way. So there's going to be a learning curve. It's going to come down to that idea of known unknowns. Like something is going to go wrong. You just don't know exactly what that's going to be. So do a pilot and maybe some low-risk sends, maybe get a company newsletter out, or do some internal blasts and so forth instead. It's going to be much better to figure that out with a group of like 50 to 100 before you start to send out like 100,000 plus and so forth. Stuff you guys probably already know. And then I had a conversation with Camille about this before, is start thinking about content. So these engines, these email campaigns and landing pages, they're only as good as the content that you can supply with it. So it can be easy, or doable, I should say. Maybe it's you start a blog post. or you're going to bolster the contact page or the form entry point and so forth, you're going to need like 5 to 10 different content paths or landing pages or email copy to get started with that. So again, something this administrator can do, can be high level, you just need to identify kind of the path you want it to go. And then set the targets and measure. So if you're going to get big mistakes out of the way with the pilot, make sure you know what your goal is with it. So again, is it the open rates or the click rates? Are you just looking to get a scoring model, a couple A's and so forth, and start to tie these two together. And then coming full circle again, I mentioned that automation can be a dangerous word because it's just kind of expected that you set this up and you forget it. There is an element of truth to that, and that once you flip the switch on marketing automation and you've built it, it is always on. So it's on when you're on vacation, when you're eating dinner, when you're sleeping and so forth. But I mentioned this is going to be the new norm in 3 to 5 years. You guys know how technology is. It's changing by the day. So as soon as you hit start and so forth, you already need to be thinking about what the next campaign is, or what the next app you're going to bolt on to it, or how it's going to interact with the CRM and so forth. So just FYI. And then I mentioned very high level, if you're interested in platforms, there's a huge range of this, and I can give some of this to maybe put on the site or so forth, but you need a platform to get started with. So there's ones, you've heard of MailChimp, Silverpop, those are good entry points. If you're B2B and you're small to medium to enterprise, Pardot is really good. Otherwise, the Marketos, Eloqua, there's a lot of good platforms that all kind of do the same thing, depending on just like little things that you might want to be doing different. The only one that I might steer you away from in the beginning, and it's nothing against the platform itself, it's ExactTarget. That is truly an email blast tool. So if you have hundreds of thousands of contacts and you're just looking to get emails or newsletters out of and so forth, you might want to back off that one until you truly have those hundreds of thousands and so forth. As far as price points, you're looking at, depending on what you're doing for the platform, for yearly costs, it's anywhere between $5,000 to upwards of $20,000. And if you're doing it internally, great, turn the stuff on. Most of these platforms offer like a quick start implementation, so they'll guide you along the way. And then if you're going to use an outside agency, again, depending on what you spent on the initial platform, you should plan to spend that as well on either a content strategy or having somebody run it month over month. So that's everything. Thank you. Any questions?
Good question. Do you have any typical return on investment? So when you're selling this into a client, are they asking you for, what's my typical return on investment over what period of time? Do you have sort of case studies that illustrate that?
I do. I don't know that I can share them today, but I can talk about how we do the ROI piece. So I always mention that 3 to 5%. So our ROI, our job is if we can actually identify or get the qualified leads to a 3 to 5%. Like basically if we have, X amount of leads and 3% of those are A1s, that's the ROI piece. And that's important because all marketers can do is generate the lead. Sales still needs to close on it. So we can tie it to like what a key account potential is or like what a typical account is and so forth. But our ROI, we consider our job done if we have in fact generated those qualified leads.
So what are typical comments then back from the sales side saying, okay, the old comment, the leads are crappy.
Yep. Yeah, so
Leads are weak, I think that was.
I'll try to be concise on it. So
Closers.
what I found interesting when I started the marketing automation piece, when I was working on Salesforce.com, the #1 complaint from sales was they had no leads. Give us anything. CRM was really good at just taking a bunch of contacts and dumping them in as leads.
Right.
So the conversation quickly changed from give me leads to I don't want any more leads. These leads are all crappy, or pardon my French, and so forth. So then the conversations that we're seeing in the beginning, sales are kind of like, yeah, like we've heard this before. But when you can truly actually say, you've got 100 leads, but 5 of them are these A1s, these are what you need to look at. Yes, they are skeptical, but once they see the quality and they're able to close on it and so forth, sales goes from being your worst friend to like your biggest advocate on it, and then it starts to spread. So
Does that help drive CRM to better implementation for the sales team? Because I always think that's what the failure of CRM is.
Yeah.
Information is useless to the salesperson because it doesn't turn into sales.
yeah,
So they're, like, I hate doing this, it's just a management tool.
yeah, totally. So that's one of the things that we talk about is if you're looking to increase user adoption on CRM, give your salespeople truly qualified leads, and the only spot that they can get them is in CRM, and you'd be amazed at the adoption that increases, and then they start to like see the features and benefits that you've been trying to get them to see all along,
Right.
and it's just like a floodgate. So yes. to
Good.
answer your question.
Because that's a big investment that gets wasted a lot of times.
That's the other conversation we have is if you're going to spend all this money on CRM and people aren't using it, I mean, you got to invest whether it's internally or with somebody else to drive that adoption as well.
Does your service generate the leads as well as qualify, or just generate them?
Yeah, so that's a good question too. So what we typically do is companies have existing contacts. So the first thing we do is clean those up and use those, but that quickly burns through. So then we do have a service offering, and I shouldn't say it like that. There are service offerings out there where you can get lists beyond like Hoover's and Dun & Bradstreet that will automatically like integrate into these MA marketing automation platforms, and then you can put them through the same cycles. So yes, you can get net new contacts. One of the things that we talk about a lot though is I talked about nurture programs. Those are also known as drip programs. So if you guys are doing SEM or PPC, you should be doing that to drive people to your website. You should be doing that to get them to fill out a form. If somebody fills out a form, it better be either creating or updating a contact in your marketing automation platform, and that's where people drip into these programs. So you might only get 5 a day, at all different hours, but when you do get them, that's where the automation comes in. Sorry, did you have a follow-up?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I just have a question as far as curious as your thoughts of the email as a centerpiece of marketing automation. So obviously email works and it's the chase of the world they're doing it, but with younger generations kind of engaging less and less with email, do you see there being kind of a different medium that comes kind of that centerpiece of communication around driving marketing automation? Do you just curious to see if you
Yeah, no, I think about that a lot. I don't think emails are going away anytime soon, but what I think is going to happen is it's going to be that dynamic content that I showed you, is people are going to just be searching what they want for. They're going to have bookmarked, or they're going to have the apps that are just going to pull it right up. And it's going to be how good are you at remembering people came there and tailoring the message on the website as opposed to sending out a bunch of emails and so forth. So I think text could be a component of it. And I think there could be something else that's coming that we just don't know what it is yet. But yeah, I think the next big thing is that dynamic content piece. I mentioned we're primarily a website builder, so the huge feature of these platforms right now is that dynamic content piece. It's kind of been around, but it's pretty good.
Is there evidence of, people feeling like you've overdone it? I go and I look up product these days, and next thing you know, every web page I go to has got an ad for that product or a similar product, just over and over and over.
Yeah.
And I may have had really no interest in it, except some curiosity, and I'm just getting bombarded.
Yep.
And then it pisses me off.
Yep.
And then I know how to do business with it.
Yep. So we definitely talk about that, and we definitely think it's being overdone. That's the whole idea of calling it one-to-one marketing. If you didn't look at something, you have no business receiving more information about it. And you should only be getting something, I go back to the banking example, like you clicked on savings account, you should only be getting very targeted information about that, not anything else until you look at it or ask for it. So that's not what's currently happening. You're getting everything, and you're getting advertisements, you're getting them on your Facebook, you're getting just bombarded, and that's why spam rates are going through the roof right now. So yes, I agree it's being overdone. That's why we're trying to scale it back and just be much more relevant.
Well, even your example with the bank, and they're going and, showing pictures basically of your neighborhood. on their homepage that you get uniquely.
Yeah,
It's kind of creepy.
yeah. I mean, I don't know that I want to be recorded saying this, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the name of the game is we're tracking online behavior to get the relevancy. There are, there are ways, we talk about tailoring it. You can also tailor it on your computer. I mean, you can turn off caches, cookies, and so forth, and you'll just get, the basic piece. And if you ever decide that you do want a little more tailored and so forth, you just flip it and switch back. But that's the world we live in. I don't think it's going to slow down as far as that.
So your platform and some of the other platforms you mentioned, are they modular? So can they plug into existing websites? Or do you have to?
Absolutely. All of them do that out of the box.
So I mentioned that we started a campaign, started working with a marketing company, and are 6 weeks into that, and
Yep.
just finished the first 4 weeks of the campaign. And our purpose is lead generation, and we've been getting about, I think it's 80-some opens, and we've gotten a week, and it's grown to 80-some in the last 2 weeks, and we've gotten about 23 to 25% giving us their information out of that, which we're pretty delighted about.
Yep.
We think that's a good number. So now my thing is, let's sell them.
Yes.
Let's just call them and sell them. Let's
Yes.
just get it over with, right? But there's this, that we need to wait, we need to nurture, we need to continue to send them things and help them along the path.
Yes.
And, where's the balance in that, it costs a lot of money to do this.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time. But, all I have to do is sell one or two of them and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm good, right? So the patience is the
Yeah.
question, I guess. I'm
The
asking.
way that we tell that story is our preference is to generate the A1. Because the one is they literally submitted a form that said we're either taking you up on your offer or we're following your call to action. So our preference is get those A1s, don't have sales call them until it gets to that point. But we recognize that sales is king, especially good salespeople. They don't want to be told what to do and so forth. So that's where the scoring model comes in. Sales, we're recommending that you wait till the A1s. It's going to take some time. If you can't help yourself or you've got a gut feel on something else, you can look at your A2s and your B2s and 1s and Cs and so forth. That final decision rests with you. They're your contacts. You call them whenever. But, marketing's recommendation or our firm point is when you do get an A1, you better close on that one. So that's kind of where the balance comes in. And, we're being firm here, but we're also giving them the options to, divert as the commander on the ground.
I saw on one of your screens there you had a survey in the email.
Yes.
How many questions do you ask in that survey?
So it depends. Obviously, the less the better. We do a lot of studies on form and survey optimization. I know it for forms, I don't know it for surveys. For forms, there's a lot of statistics that show if you can keep it to 4 fields, you're going to get a lot more conversions, and then you can get that other information later. I don't know what it is for surveys yet, but I can follow up separately.
One other observation I have is, I get, let's say Microsoft wants me to fill out a survey, or Adobe wants me to fill out a survey, and there's a link in the email to go to the page to do it. I don't do it when it leads me to a website that isn't, say, under Adobe's domain.
Yep.
That isn't under Microsoft. Even though I know these are probably legit, but, with the nature of things out there, Robert, I don't, I would be happy to fill out theirs, knowing that it's them, but it's so easy to generate an email, it looks like it's legit, and make it look like it's a legit survey,
Yeah.
but it's not them.
I agree. If it doesn't look like it, you shouldn't. We talk a lot about that as well. And you either need to drive them to the existing website you're using, or all of these platforms have landing page components, but the brand standards better be perfect. It better have the right logo. It better have the same look and feel. It better be obvious that it is in fact you guys. Otherwise, same thing. People are going to opt out and they're not going to fill it out. So I wouldn't if it looks fishy. All right.
Last question
Sure.
then is from the Million Dollars community. What can you do for your business?
So we are trying to spread the word about this. As I mentioned, I learned how to do a lot of this in Chicago, and it was all great work and so forth. We want companies in the Midwest, specifically this area, to do business with Milwaukee companies and not go to the Chicagos and the New Yorks and the LAs and so forth. So if you guys come across anybody who is looking for people to talk about this, learn about it, or set it up and run for them, that's our forte, and we really appreciate the word of mouth. Thank you.